Once upon a time, there was a little girl. She was the happiest child who had a loving family and a perfect childhood. She liked writing, and she was a curious, sensitive kid. She got good grades for school and had a great group of friends. She turned out to be a kind, respectful young woman. This is the perfect beginning for a story. Nothing extraordinary, just a person who had the potential to develop into a good and well-balanced human being. But at some point in time, life got in the way. Things happened and crashed that little girl's happy world. She started feeling anxious. Sometimes she would cry about random things and feel overwhelmed without a real reason. She would hurt herself in several ways, but she kept smiling and saying everything was fine. Other people have real problems, she thought. Nothing is wrong with me. There's no need for my loved ones to worry. She tried to stop those thoughts and feelings from bringing her down, but she had no power over them. However, she didn't consider herself ill yet, so she wouldn't seek help. She went on like that, spent years hiding, and the feeling of inexplicable guilt and shame grew up with her, becoming a huge shadow hovering over her, which led that girl to a very dark place. Would you like to know how the story ends? Well, I'm afraid I can't tell you, because the ending hasn't been written yet. And that's because that girl is me. If I were your If I were your daughter, sister, girlfriend, whoever you want, would you notice? Would you offer help or just shrug your shoulders and tell me to cheer up? Maybe so, maybe not. A diagnosis like anxiety or mood disorder can put a stress on relationships. The person who has a mental disease experiences recurring changes in the way he or she perceives the world. It is like a roller coaster, but without the fun part. One moment you are at the top, the next you fall down and get lost through obsessive thoughts. The only thing people who suffer want is for the pain to go away, and some support and understanding, someone to talk to. Too often we feel misunderstood, like our family or friends just do not get it, or think that what we go through is not important. We feel dismissed, because while we experience a tornado on the inside, what they see is just a person acting crazy. Or at least we think that people see us that way. This makes me think about the time when I told a friend about my insomnia. I have been suffering from that since my last year of middle school, and I had got to a point where it was really impacting my life. I was probably 15, and I was starting to realize that I could not pretend everything was okay anymore. I spent my nights in bed, staring at the ceiling, wondering why my brain could not stop panicking about every little detail of my life. So I reached out to her, saying something like, "Hey, it is so hard for me to sleep at night, and I am basically a zombie all day because I cannot just tell that annoying voice in my head called anxiety to shut up. I tried to make it sound funny because I was ashamed, but in reality, I was in so much pain, and I just wanted her to see my true struggling self behind that ironic approach. Her response was, "Oh, I can totally relate to that. I have been there. Don't worry. I am sure you will get over it." Needless to say, the first thought that came to my mind was, as if I had not thought about that before, thanks. That is the worst, when people tell you it will pass, it will be okay. Just because you don't see it, it does not mean it is not there. What if I told you I had asthma? Would you tell me it will go away? Or a broken arm? Would you tell me to sleep on it? We all experience anxiety to some extent, before a test or before having to speak in public. You see, anxiety itself is a normal human response that has a specific purpose. It is a sense of fear that alerts our body when something potentially dangerous is going on. So, when on a normal level, it is basically a life-saving alarm which rings anytime we face a threat. The amygdala is responsible for emotions, survival instincts, and memory. It switches on anxiety when our sensory receptors start screaming danger. When this happens, our fight or flight response is triggered, and cortisol and cortisone, the so-called stress hormones, are released into our organism with a stream of neurotransmitters. Our heart starts beating faster for more blood to get to our muscles. More air gets into our lungs. We are ready to face the imminent threat. Once the danger is gone, everything is supposed to go back to normal, right? Not if an anxiety disorder is present, which means the fight or flight response cannot be switched off. There is no real danger, still cold sweating, changes in heart rate, shortness of breath, blurred vision, and so on are experienced. These symptoms are perceived as threats. Our body tells us to get ready to fight or flee for no real reason. So, how can we prepare psychologically for a danger that we cannot see or perceive? We cannot. All we can do is get out of that place, but taking action doesn't get us out of danger. It only reinforces the association of anxiety to situations which are not actually dangerous. Imagine feeling like you cannot breathe just because you enter a place which is a bit crowded. Or thinking you are going to have a heart attack even if you are an 18-year-old healthy woman. That's bad enough, isn't it? But that unbearable, constant feeling of anxiety is not the only negative side of mental disorders, for that matter. Stigma and ignorance on mental disease go hand in hand with these. They are what make it really hard for individuals to tell family, friends, and loved ones about the diagnosis, which can lead to self-harm, addiction, or even to the extreme act of taking one's own life. According to statistics, the second cause of death due to mental disease among people under 25 in Italy is suicide. Yet, to some, mental illness is not real. Believe me, there have been times in my life when nobody would have dared to define me as properly healthy. However, the point here is not the story of my struggle, but the persistent existence of a bunch of useless prejudices around mental illness. In the end, we are all humans who cherish love and cry the same tears. Everyone's deepest desire is to be appreciated and understood for who they are, without the need to hide the messy parts of them. I can say that today, I am taking hold of my life, thanks to some beautiful people I met and their immense support and love. I was lucky. So what I am asking is, please, help fight the stigma. I am finally able to start writing my own ending. Be the person who will help another little girl write hers. Thank you.